right, Coach, we'll start with an opening statement and then we'll open it for questions.
Okay. Long week, 11 games in 9 days. It was good. We were exposed, which was the intent. Needed to know exactly where we need to get better, so that was pretty obvious with us. I thought overall we won some really quality games. The Duke win was obviously outstanding. I thought our first 3 games we played extremely well. Saw a lot of promise. I was really happy with the pitching staff. And then with the hiccup with Notre Dame, and I felt like we didn't really get ourselves back on track. We found ways to win some games, but we really weren't working simultaneously. We weren't really smooth. I felt like there were a lot of peaks and valleys, and we grinded to win some ball games, which is great, coming out above 500, but nowhere near where I know our potential is.
You know, when you look at these, obviously these early season tournaments, it's all about learning about your team. What do you feel like you learned about this group and how you want them to maybe respond in these games, especially when you're getting towards SEC play as well? You drop a few, right?
Yeah, the what was exposed immediately was just the speed of the game, that our younger players aren't used to how fast the game is. We really haven't practiced on dirt. So it's going outside and having top 25 teams hit the ball at us is, 85 miles an hour plus, and our freshmen not realizing how fast that game actually is, and the faster it is, the faster you have to make a decision. So that's where we have to have a lot of growth. The good thing is that the ability's there, the potential's there. They got to catch up and get back on track a lot faster and grow a lot faster. We still have a lot of uncertainty in the middle infield. I felt like second base, we had 4 different players have opportunities to be able to win that, and no one really has pun intended, taken the ball and run with it. So we need to have a lot more consistency out of second base, and I think what's disappointing from my standpoint is defense is hurting us at times. So we have to be more consistent in defense. Our pitchers are making good pitches. We're not giving up the long ball. Like that's huge. Like we're not, other than Florida State, and Florida State's a top 5 team, we're not giving up a lot of home runs. So our defense has to make the plays.
When you see Kara Daly and obviously her versatility, working at short, working at third base, what do you see her kind of role moving forward, and what do you like about that versatility as well?
She's not a shortstop.
Right.
And, we gave it a shot. And it was allowing us to have Walker, Daly, and Hay all in the lineup and not have to use one of them as a DP. And I didn't want to, because I wanted Ebbs to be our DP. And Kara gave it a shot, but it's such a different depth perception moving her back. And the timing is off. I mean, she's been a 3-year starter at third base. And that's really where her home is, and she just feels more comfortable there. So that was the change that we made on our last day on Saturday. So now I have some tough decisions on what to do with Walker and Hay. And I know that Walker can play first and, maybe share some time and allow someone to be the DP. So we're going to be moving some people around over there, but I feel comfortable that I know that they're going to be more in their niche and more comfortable in those corner positions.
You've mentioned a couple areas of needed improvement. Where do you see the strengths of the team through the first couple of weeks?
I think the strengths, I'm really happy with Crenshaw at the top of the lineup. I thought she was an exceptional leadoff hitter. I believe that she was successful batting about .558 in the leadoff position, which is absolutely outstanding in getting on base. I would like to see a little bit more RBI production out of her. She left 15 people on base throughout the entire week. So that's something that she can just focus on a little bit more and not trying to do too much in those RBI situations. Madison Walker's stats are not an indication of really how great she was. She hit so many balls right at people, which is just part of the game, and we just got to remind her that she will get some bloops every now and then that are going to be some jam shots. But having production from different people all throughout the lineup was extremely helpful. And then having Claire Cahanlin down at the bottom of the lineup to be able to turn it over, I thought she did extremely well.
And then, before the season, you mentioned a lot of newcomers on this team, and you've kind of already mentioned there, but how important was it for you to get the opportunity to see a bunch of them when you're playing so many games in such a short period?
We're going to have to rely on a lot of different people in a lot of different roles. So that's going to be real important that they get that experience now. And there were some games that I think I had 17 or 18 different people that were in and out of the lineup, making some late defensive shifts, late game management, putting people in different possible situations. And the more they can get that experience now, it's going to better prepare them for late March, April, going into postseason.
When you look at your pitching staff, what would be your analysis at this point of Sierra and Larissa, kind of how they started this season here?
Peaks and valleys. I thought McCann got better throughout the week. I felt like early on she wasn't even close to scratching the surface of what her potential is. A little uncertainty. Wasn't really relied on a lot last year to be a starter, so different role, different expectations, but I thought her last 2 outings got really strong, and for her to be able to throw a complete game against Liberty, I thought was phenomenal way for her to end a very, very long week. I thought Harrison was up and down too. I thought great outing against Duke, like unbelievable outing for her, kept them off balance. And then there were some others that, she got hit a little bit harder. But what I saw out of Harrison in her last 2 outings, again, is stuff that happens behind the scenes. Is learning how to pitch, not just throw, and the art that goes into pitching and being able to set up batters rather than just throw the pitch to the location that's being called. What purpose are you trying to get out of it? And then, happy with Pinnell. I thought that she did a strong job. It's unfortunate that there were a couple save opportunities that didn't come through, but that's part of it when you're a closer. But I was really happy with what she looked like coming in against San Diego State, and I think that she's going to have a lot more opportunities. And it might be some spot starts. It might be coming in as a middle reliever to be able to finish the game, but getting more innings underneath her belt because she has the ability to keep hitters off balance.
This kind of grind of this early season when you're playing so many games in so many days, what does it kind of teach you about a team, year in, year out, when you're kind of going through all this together?
It's tough, I'm not gonna lie, like I was so exhausted coming home Saturday night, but it just shows you how tough these kids are and the grind and the determination. Like sometimes you have to will yourself to compete when you've played so many games in such a short window, and being able to have a reset button. Like in athletics, it's so great because you have to have amnesia. Like the score from yesterday doesn't carry over to today. So it doesn't matter what we did, good or bad, the day before, the next day is a whole new slate. And when we rebound and do some of the things, like poor game against Ohio State, rebounded against Liberty. Like seeing how the resiliency happens within this team shows me the leadership and the commitment and the dedication that they have.
Coach, that infield, obviously a lot of personnel changes heading into the season, especially on that left side. How would you evaluate their performances, especially with a lot of shuffling through these first couple of tournaments?
I would just say inconsistent. Like just inconsistent in their overall repeatability. And that's all I'm looking for is like, we want to make all the routine plays. And when the speed of the game gets so fast and everything speeds up and they try to play faster, or they're not anticipating how hard the ball is going to be hit, then their fundamentals start to break down. And it's trusting that they have the proper fundamentals to be able to withstand any ball that comes at them, but also anticipate that every ball is going to come to you. Like when you're in practice and someone's just hitting you balls, you know when the ground ball is going to come at you. Like you can be able to anticipate that. In the live situation, you have no idea where the ball's gonna go. But if you have a defensive mentality where you're back on your heels, not expecting it, then the ball's gonna dominate you every single time. So it's just kind of getting them a little bit more aware of the speed of our game and how aggressive you have to be when you're playing defense.
And you said before the season, there's no replacing Jenna and Maddie. Everybody's their own person. But what are some things that you think they had done in their time at Mizzou that you think this current infield can take and apply to their games moving forward?
The consistency. Jenna Laird was probably one of the most consistent defensive players, and I'll even go back to Kendall Bailey at second base. Like so unbelievably consistent in their play every single day. So when there was a ground ball that went up the middle of the infield, the pitchers knew when they turned around that the play was going to be made. Like if it's going to be hard hit shot, like then that's going to be an exceptional play, and the exceptional players are going to make that. But we have to be expecting to make all the routine plays, and that's really what Laird and Honnold up the middle and Gallagher and Kendall Bailey did for us for so many years.
After so many games in so few days, you're outside all the time, you come back to this. Is there kind of any specific focus when you're kind of back inside and not able to be out on the field again?
My number one focus is to shout from the rooftops that they need to move the softball season back. Like every single time we come home from a trip, and this has been happening since I started coaching in 1999, softball should not be played in February, period. Like February's not spring. And to expect 3/4 of the country to all go to do what we just did and play 11 games in 9 days, to come home and not be able to go outside, to then go and play against 3 top 25 teams to not ever practice on dirt, like, it'd be like a hockey team never practicing on ice. Like, that's unheard of. Or our basketball team never bouncing a ball on a court and then expecting them to go play the number 5 team in the country. So if we can move the season back and start in March, now you're having the safety and the welfare of the student athletes at the forefront to play in an environment and an atmosphere that's conducive for our sport. Like, there's a reason why Major League Baseball spring training hasn't started yet. And then they don't start playing games until April. Like, we got to speed that up. I don't have control over those things. You know, it's way above my pay grade. So all I can focus on is what we do at practice today, and that's going to be the intensity, pay attention to the little things, pay attention to the details, make all the routine plays, and do so in the way we know we can do.
Coach, just out of curiosity, how long have you been feeling that way? Because obviously growing up in New York and coaching at Hofstra, it's pretty cool up there at the Stonewall too.
Yeah, I mean, there's been times that I, even as a college player in the 90s, and I'm dating myself, that I was blowing snowflakes off my eyelashes. Like, our game should not be played in snow. And we need, in the way the weather has been, like, we need to make a change here. But I've been feeling that way ever. But now I just have a platform that I can speak a little bit louder.
Well, you look at the Mary Nutter, obviously what's going ahead there. What do you like about going to that classic every year? And obviously you're facing some of the top competition, UCLA coming right around the corner. So.
I think it's great for our players to experience the West Coast. It's really important for them and for me to expose them to different parts of the country, which is why we went to New York last year and why we go to California. Our fan base absolutely loves it, and we have a lot of alumni and donor relations over in Southern California. So it exposes us to a different part of the country. And then you talk about recruiting. Like, Southern California is a hotbed. So for recruits and young players to be able to see Mizzou up close and really get an inside look into our culture just continues to broaden our scope of softball.
And you're focusing on a lot of teams, but what stands out about this UCLA group this year?
Oh, they are hitting the ball extremely well. You know, their team average is close to 400. That in itself, I mean, they're always going to be strong in the circle. Their coaching staff is probably one of the strongest coaching staffs in the country. They've been together forever. So it's just a matter of taking advantage of our opportunities when we have them, because you might only have one.
Coach, it looks like Claire is slap hitting a lot less so far. What went into that development over the offseason?
She just reads the defense, and early on the outfield was playing her so shallow, almost where they were on the dirt. So then she started keeping her feet still and swinging away, which is why she added some of those triples, because they were so far in. She's really worked on utilizing her whole body to be able to swing, and obviously her concentration in the weight room to be able to get herself stronger. But being able to make more solid contact rather than as a slapper, you're always trying to hit the ball so it bounces many times before it gets to the infielders.
Any questions via Zoom?
Karen does. Is your volume up?
My parents were at the games this weekend.
Cool.
And we're super excited to see the team. But my mom and dad both kept talking about the wind. So how does something like having such strong wind really impact those games? Like, how does it impact the pitchers or like the ball getting hit out and stuff like that?
So a couple things, like the Ohio State game in particular, we probably had 5 home runs that were held up from the wind. One in particular that if it was here, Madison Walker probably hit it over the scoreboard. That's how hard the ball was hit, and the center fielder made a diving catch over the fence to be able to pull it back in. It's a huge impact, and our hitters have to make an adjustment and try to hit more line drives and even ground balls to be able to drive it through. Their pitching did a great job in forcing us to elevate. So we have to counter that. In terms of pitching, I'm always paying attention to which way the wind's blowing, because if the wind is at the pitcher's back and blowing in from center field, it's going to keep the rise ball down. So you don't want a tailwind with a rise ball pitcher. You want a headwind with a rise ball pitcher, because it's going to help that ball elevate, and then vice versa with a drop ball. You'd want a tailwind with a drop ball pitcher, not a headwind, because they will keep the ball up and elevated if it's a headwind. I'm talking sailing.
Yeah, I wondered how much the wind affected someone like Sierra, who throws so many rise balls.
Yeah, it definitely when it's a tailwind, it's going to keep that ball down. It's not going to elevate as effectively, because a rise ball is created with backspin. So if the ball is spinning and the wind's coming towards the rise ball, it's going to be able to jump more.
Okay, and then I have one more question. What have you liked that you've seen out of your freshmen so far?
I mean, they're competing. I like their competitiveness. I love their enthusiasm and their energy. They got to control it a little bit and just stay within themselves and not trying to do too much. Some of the errors that they created were they were looking for the second play before the first play happened. So they just got to go one step at a time. And that's where we're going to talk about, taking care of the little things and doing all the little things. You can't turn a double play until you properly field a ground ball. And sometimes they want to do everything so fast and so well that they get outside of themselves.
That's all for me, thank you.
We got another question.
Hey, I was wanting to ask about Stefania Bruscato. She's had a hot start. She's almost matched her hit total from last season. I'm just wondering what's working well for her and how's she going to continue?
Oh, with her, a lot of it comes down to timing. She has this high leg kick that you will see, and it's making sure that that front foot is getting on time. And she's, again, not trying to do too much. She's a very pull conscious hitter, and sometimes she gets a little too pull where her front side will pull off a little bit more, which is why they throw her a lot of off speed. I mean, they're starting with a lot of first pitch changeups. So it's her continually just to work the middle of the field and stay and keep her direction.
Kyle.
Thank you, that's all I got.
Cool.
Okay. Well, I was real interested when you're talking about how the wind affects different pitches. Is that something that you're looking at before games going in? If you know the wind's going to be blowing in or blowing out, is that affecting how you're calling games or how you're making pitching decisions?
It's something I'm aware of, and I'm aware of it before the game even starts, but I still have to see how the ball reacts. So I might know, hey, we have a tailwind here, it's going to keep her rise ball down, but if she's still getting easy outs and swings and misses, I'm not going to go away from it. But it is something that I am very, very aware of. It's the same thing with if it was going across the field with a curveball, screwball pitcher. It'd be the same type of thing that I'm aware of it, and we might have to make some adjustments that if it is a tailwind and Harrison is throwing, maybe I have to start the ball a little bit higher rather than expecting the spin to go to the location it needs to go.
Cool. Thank you, Coach.
Right, you got it.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, Coach.